It's overcast and raining, and you can see our little Leaf down there is plugged in, and I don't know if you can see it, but the little blue light on the dash is blinking, showing that it's charging. And this is where we've got the charger plugged in, and it says it's ready and charging. And our system is making enough electricity to charge the car and charge the batteries on the house, plus run the fans and lights and anything else we need in there. So this is working out very, very well, isn't it, Momma D?
Yeah.
Alright, Momma D, so you are driving an all-electric car. It's a Nissan Leaf that we just bought.
Yes.
So tell everybody what your thoughts are about it.
Well, first of all, it's a 2015, so it's an older one, and we got a good deal out on it off Craigslist. But I love it. It's amazing. You know, I think after talking to several people about driving Leafs, I was really interesting to me that the same topic kept coming up, which was husbands wanted to get them, wives did not. And so I kept hearing this reoccurring theme, thinking women are afraid to drive them. They like, women aren't generally as mechanically inclined or seek that avenue of thinking or learning. And I personally, I love it. I'm not afraid of it. You know, you just have to be aware. And that's the same thing with off-grid living. It's not like you run all your, think about running all your appliances late at night. You know, you have to think through the process of what you're doing and where you can drive, how long you can go, and it's a learning curve, but right now we're getting a feel for how far we can go, where we can charge, how long it'll take to charge. And what's great is we have a really good dependable charger, which is near our grocery store, our bank, Target, and right across the street from Home Depot. So those are the four main stores, and Walmart is close by too, that we go to all the time. And Target has about 6 chargers, I think, honey? 3 different stations.
4 at least, for sure.
2 plugs at each station. So
and you get the first 2 hours free.
2 hours are free. And then is it $3?
I think it's $3 an hour or something like that.
But ours was fully charged last time we went in. We weren't down to E, but we were lower. And it was fully charged within a half an hour, I think.
Probably something like that, yeah.
So that's pretty groovy. And we do need to charge to get back home because our drive home for our situation in our car is mostly uphill. So we need to be at least 50% to get home and then to charge again once we're home when the sun peeps out. At this time, you know, we are doing some unplug the car because it's gotten real cloudy and rainy, and there's a little back and forth, but once we have a good sunny day, we'll just plug it in first thing in the morning and it'll charge. I think we're estimating right now about 4 hours. So I love it. I think it's great for our situation. It's perfect. No more gas, no more oil changes, because we bought it used, no payments. We love it. I mean, we're thrilled with it, and I'm looking to have this car for a very, very long time. Mahalo.
As far as driving it and how it handles and all, it feels pretty much like any other little car that we've ever driven. You know, it's about as peppy as a gasoline engine and goes, you know, just like a car. You go down the freeway and you feel like you're in just any other car. Air conditioner in it's real nice. It doesn't seem to pull the batteries down much, you know, like I thought it would have taken, you know, 20% of the power to run the air conditioner, and it's more like 2%. One of the things that I know that we've had to adjust our thinking about on driving this car is that, you know, in a gasoline car, you can fill up with a tank of gas and you can go 200, 300, 400 miles. And in an electric car like this, you're talking more like 60, 80, 100 miles. And for us, a trip to town, going into town because it's downhill, Hilo is about, well, it's at sea level. And then where we live is about 2,300 feet above sea level. So we live up on a mountain, and or up near a volcano, I should say. And going to town, because it's downhill, only takes about 20% of our power. So when we leave here and we've got 100%, we get to Hilo and it's about 80%. Now, that's about roughly 25 miles, something like that, I guess. So, you know, going to town, you get to town, you got 80%, and you're like, oh yeah, man, we can drive around all day and get back home. Well, the bad thing is because going home is uphill, it takes between 45 and 55% power to get home. So if we leave town and we're at 100% charge, we get home and it's like we've got between 55 and 45% of our power left. So if we leave town at 45%, we might not make it home. So one of the things that you definitely learn how to do is find places that have charging stations. So in Hilo, there's a charging station at Home Depot. There's one at Target. There's one at the city government building. There's one at the Nissan dealership. There's one at HECO Light and Power Company. And there's one down by the piers. You know, they got them pretty well around town. And all the ones that we've hit, like the one at the government building, Home Depot, and Target, those are the ones that we go to the most. We plug in as soon as we get to the store or the building or whatever, and then we'll walk to the other stores from there. So whenever we go to Target, we'll walk to Target, Safeway, and Walmart, maybe over to Panda Express or Burger King. Momma D likes Panda Express. I like Burger King. I like a good flame boiled burger. Anyway, back to the subject. So, you know, we do our walking around there, and then when we go downtown, so like the other day I had to make the tax payment for the registration on the black truck. So we did that, and we plugged in there at the government building, and then while we were there, Momma D went and registered to vote, and she voted. And there's also a couple other little stores downtown there that she likes to shop at. So the government building's really nice, or the county building is really nice to pull in, because you plug in and you go and, you know, do your shopping around. So the benefits to it is that for us, the fuel is 100% free. We get it home, we charge it up to 100%, and then we go downtown, and every place that we go, we find a spot to park that has a charging station, plug in, and then when we leave town, we're at 100% again. So when we get home, we're at 55 to 45%, somewhere around there. So the benefits are that the fuel for us is free. We charge off the solar panels at home. We charge off the free charging stations. in town, so we are absolutely 100% self-sufficient now. I really, really like that, because now I feel like I'm at the apex of where I really wanted to be for being self-sufficient. Another benefit to having the electric car is because we look for the charging stations in town, we do a whole lot more walking than we used to do, because when we had a gas-powered vehicle, you know, we'd go to Target and we'd shop, and Safeway's right next door to Target, and we'd get our stuff loaded up in the car, jump in the car, and drive in the very same parking lot where Safeway is, but just drive over closer to Safeway, and then we get out, and then we shop, and then we push the cart out to the car because it's closer there. Yeah. Well, now that's not the case. We go and we park at Target, shop at Target, and then she goes to Safeway and buys all the refrigerated goodies, and then we come back, and then I'll go get the car and swing by in front of Safeway and stop there, and then we load the car and come home. So that's pretty much how it works there. So there's a lot of benefits to it. Absolutely zero maintenance. No oil changes, no air filters, no fuel filters, no gasoline, no diesel. Man, I feel like I can, if we need to go somewhere, we go, and it doesn't cost us a penny. You know, as long as it's within the range of the car. So we can't drive to the other side of the island with it. We have to take the truck when we do that. So if we go to the other side of the island, we just make sure that we're going to get a load of material or whatever it is that we're after. The drawbacks to having an all-electric car like this Nissan Leaf, of course, is the range. And with a range of between 60 and 100 miles, depending on how many stops and starts you make, and up and down hills and that kind of stuff, really kind of takes a bite out of the flexibility over a gasoline engine, because, you know, the flexibility of a gas engine is you can go anywhere, anytime. In an electric vehicle, you're always checking the electric. Now, over the course of a few months, it may become more like second nature, like shifting gears in a manual transmission. I don't know. But right now, we're still real conscious of what our power level is. I think that this car is probably better suited to someone that commutes to their drive at work, where they live fairly close to where they work. They live fairly close to the shopping centers and all, you know, commuter car. Man, it's awesome for that. If I were a millennial living in town, working in town, living in the big city, and this car is ideal, because even though it costs as much as any other new car, you know, if you're just going back and forth to work or whatever, your contributions to your carbon footprint with it are zero. And I'm talking about even over using public transportation. You use public transportation, you're jumping on a diesel-powered bus or a bus that uses propane or compressed natural gas. It's still the carbons, the stuff that you guys are really concerned about. So electric car, I think, is for everybody except for maybe us rural people, where we've got a lot more miles to drive to go where we're going. But in our case, it works, because we go to town a couple of days a week, and it's not, you know, really a big deal. So we can let it sit for a couple of days and charge. Now, talking about the charging on the car, there are 3 charging methods that are employed to charge the car. They all go through the same plug that plugs into the car, but you've got a 120 volt charging method that uses about 1500 watts. So, you know, you can plug it in anywhere that's got an outlet and charge it. The drawback is it takes 21 to 24 hours to charge it from being almost empty. And being off grid, where you're making your own power, you're talking 3-4 days to charge the car. And we did that at first. The 120 volt charger is what comes with the car, so that's what we use. Now that we've gone to town, and a lot of these charging stations have the 480 volt chargers, so it charges a little quicker than 240 volts, but not really much. If you're dead, man, it really punches the power in and does kind of a quick charge thing, but that's not really healthy for the batteries. So you've got the level 1, that's 120 volts, then you've got the level 2, that's 240 volts, and the level 3, that's 480 volts. And the two that I'm really going to talk about are the two that we use. We use the 240 volt charger at home, because when we get home, we can plug the car in, and at 240 volts, in 4 hours it's charged if we've got a decent amount of sun. Like right now, it's a pretty decent amount of sun. And right now the car is charging at 240 volts, is on its taper charge, and so it's not pulling even as much power, and Momma D's in there cooking right now on top of the charge. So 120 volts, 1500 watts to charge it. 240 volts is about 3800 watts. So the inverter that we've got is rated at 4000 watts. And I'm going to tell you, that little PIP inverter, it pushes it pretty good. There's no issues at all. The cooling fan on it revs up pretty good, but you know, you can tell it's not really struggling or anything. And there's been a few times the water heater kicks on while it's charging the car, and it drives them both fine. And that's probably 4100 or 4200 watts total. And that water heater runs for about 40 minutes when it turns on. And the inverter being rated 4000 watts, it's sitting there pushing 4100, 4200 watts for 40 minutes, and it doesn't seem to be an issue for it at all. So I'm using two inverters, one that runs the water heater, charges the car, and it'll run the heat pump when I get it installed. Then the other inverter runs the cook stove and all of the 120 volt appliances in the house through a step-down transformer. I'll cover all that in another video, so don't need to talk about that here. Okay, so I devised a circuit that uses the PIP inverter's onboard relay that will trip on and off at predefined points, kind of like the charge controller I had in Colorado. So I've got this one set up so that when the battery's register is full, it'll take and turn the relay on that's in the inverter. So that relay that's inside the inverter is rated 3 amps at 250 volts. Well, the car's taking 15 amps at, well, okay, maybe more like 11 amps, I guess, at 240 volts. And so that little relay in the inverter, there's no way it's going to drive that. So I use the relay on the inverter to drive another 240 volt relay outside the inverter that's rated for 30 amps. And then that turns the power on and off to the car to charge it. And it's worked out really well. I like it a lot, because even on a cloudy day, when the batteries are getting enough power that they're charged, it directs the power to the car once they're full, and then as the batteries slowly start coming down, and then it gets down to, I think it's 50 volts, then it turns the relay off and the car stops charging, and then it gradually goes back up till it gets set where it says it's full again, turns the relay on, starts charging the car, and then the house batteries start going down a little bit, charging the car. So it's just sort of this shock absorber effect. You know, it makes up the difference for what the panels aren't putting out. On days like right now where we got full sun, punches it in there and it runs all day, and then 4 or 5 hours, the car's completely charged and ready to go to town again. So we're good. I couldn't be happier with the inverter, couldn't be happier with the car. We're able to go, you know, every day really if we want to, but we average probably twice a week, so it's awesome. I like the little Nissan Leaf, and I think it's ideal for commuter car, people that are driving back and forth to work, and folks like Momma D and I that go to town a couple of times a week, go to church and then go shopping, and it's great. Our gas bill went from $80 a month to $0, and our oil changes went from $40 to an oil change to $0. You know, of course your taxes and registration are the same, but man, I recommend it. If you want it, jump on it. Get you some, as they say.